and welcome to this week's edition of Retire Well, brought to you by the team of Citizen Advisory Group. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and I'm joined by the owner, Kevin Bucher, and financial advisor, Pete Samanuk. We're so glad you're joining us today. The title of today's show is The Treasure of Your Lost or Forgotten 401k, How to Unlock Your Hidden Retirement Potential. Kevin, Pete, I'm excited to have this conversation with you. It's going to be a good one.
We're excited about this one, too.
Great.
Yeah.
It's a very relevant topic that we love to talk about and we hammer home. So
yeah, and it affects a lot of people, as we're going to see here in a minute.
I mean, we'll go through some of these numbers, but people change jobs on a fairly regular basis these days, and so these retirement accounts are sometimes just left out there in the wind. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen.
Exactly. So if you want to simplify, organize, and maximize your retirement potential, you definitely don't want to miss today's show. One of the things I want to say up front is we're going to be using the term 401k throughout today's show, but really that is just a term to encompass whatever workplace retirement plan you may have. Maybe for you it's a 403b, a TSP, a 457, whatever type of retirement accounts you may have, know that this show does apply to you. Now, this show is inspired by the significant growth of lost and forgotten 401k workplace retirement plan accounts that are actually out there, and we have some staggering statistics to share with you. This is according to the fintech company Capitalize as of May 2023. You guys ready for this? All right. There are 29.2 million left behind or forgotten 401k accounts as of 2023, holding approximately $1.65 trillion in assets. That's trillion with a T, a large sum of money. This represents 25% of all 401k plan assets currently invested, and the average American worker has 3 to 5 old dormant accounts floating around out there with an average balance in these lost or forgotten accounts of over $56,000. All right, let me stop there. Let's just set this up again. The average person has 3 to 5 old accounts floating around out there with an average balance of $56,000 in them. That's a lot of lost or forgotten money.
Yeah, and I actually, the in-person workshops that I do for smaller groups of people, I actually start with this concept, is that we have stuff floating around all over the place out there. And Kevin's mentioned it. We use this term quite often as the junk drawer approach.
Right.
And we just have accounts all over. We have an old 401k with $10,000 here, and this old plan from a 403b when I worked at this job has $2,000. I see it all the time where people come in and they literally have 5 to 6 different accounts, and there's no cohesion, and one account's doing something different than the other, and they're just forgotten, because we're going to talk about what your options are with these plans a little bit later in the show. But the easiest thing for people to do is to do nothing, right? It's easy to do nothing because, well, nothing's going to happen. It's going to stay there.
Yep.
We kind of think the old company is actually helping us manage that, or there's some advisor on it. You're the advisor in that situation, right? When you have all those accounts floating around out there, you were the advisor. So there's no cohesion. That's why it's just so important to kind of, as you're going through work, and like Kevin said, I mean, people are changing jobs a lot more often these days. It's
I was going to say, yeah, because you said that this is very common. You guys see this a lot. I'm curious, before we keep going, what's the record you've seen of how many accounts someone has come in with? Any numbers jump out?
So I don't know if we keep track of the records of it. But the way that we lay out someone's finances, so there are times where we can't fit them all on one page, if that helps at all. So it's a fairly common issue, and as Pete kind of mentioned, when you have this scattered approach, you're really not having things aligned to really work together to meet what your goals and objectives are. So it's a timely show. I mean, that's a kind of these stats are staggering, right?
Yeah, I'm surprised.
And $56,000 is the average balance that's laying out there for folks, and that can change. That can be a significant change to the retirement landscape, right?
For sure. And I just want to. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I've seen people. I mean, we don't have a record, but I've definitely seen people with 20-some accounts, right?
Wow.
I mean, I've seen some cases you've had, we've kind of gone through.
Right.
20-some accounts, something along those lines. I had a woman, we're going through, and her numbers looked pretty good. We're trying to figure it out, and then we found an old 401k. She's like, oh, and then I have this old account out here. I have not seen a statement for it in 15 years. and it had like $280,000 in it on top of everything else she already had, and she kind of forgot about it. So it's just really relevant.
Yeah, it's very relevant, and I think what I was going to say is I want to encourage our viewers, if that's you, know that you're not alone. Clearly, right? This is very common, so it's nothing to feel ashamed about at all. And to your point, you know, this is interesting. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, those born between 1957 and 1964 held an average of 12 jobs before reaching the age of 54. So this is why it can be so common for people to leave accounts behind. Also, 30%, this is according to a 2020 study by Fidelity, and it revealed that approximately 30% of people who left a job had forgotten about or lost track of their old workplace retirement accounts. And it's very, very common. So because these accounts don't automatically travel with us when we change jobs, what choices are usually presented to folks when they're leaving the workplace? What can they do with that money?
Yeah, and there's going to be 4 basic options that people have, and we'll try to go through all 4 of them, kind of in individual detail. Number 1, you can either leave it there, right? And like I said earlier, that's the easiest thing to do.
Clearly, most people are doing
That's what most people do, and it's the path of least resistance, right? So you can either leave it in that old 401k, and again, make no mistake that when you leave it in that old 401k, no one is keeping an eye on it. Your old employer is not managing it. That representative for that 401k, whoever it may be, is not managing that for you or making sure that it's matching or aligning your retirement goals.
It's also not being managed for free.
Correct, right? There's also fees that are associated with it and all the things that come along with that.
Right.
Okay, so you can either leave it there, we can roll it to an individual IRA or a Roth IRA, right? A self-directed IRA. We can roll it into our new 401k plan if we have a new 401k plan that's offered through our new job, or we can simply cash it out, right? We can say we don't want the money, or we want the money, we don't want to keep it in a retirement plan, and just really take it to ourselves, which comes along with penalties.
I was going to say, if you're under 59 and a half, not recommended,
correct,
right?
Correct. Yeah. And you're not really going to understand all these options and what we should and shouldn't do, and that's why it's just so important to have a planner or an advisor really sitting down and walking you through it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and just to add 2 points to that. So 2 of the 4, I just wanted to add some commentary to. So number 1, leaving the money behind in the old 401k literally increases the likelihood that it becomes a forgotten 401k, right? Because what could happen there? Well, you're not active in that employment anymore, and that employer has the 401k plan. They might change investment firms that are in charge of the 401k. So what used to be maybe an account at Fidelity is now an account with Voya or Vanguard, and things move. So where 10 years down the road, that account's not where it used to be, and that just leads to forgetting that account even exists.
Sure.
Then the other one, we've already kind of hit on this. One of the other easy options is, well, you could just cash that account out. Well, there's consequences to that. Consequence 1, as you mentioned, because if you're not 59 and a half, you'd be subject to an early withdrawal penalty of 10% on that withdrawal. But I also put it this way, because I think folks that are in their 20s and 30s that maybe only had a little bit of money accumulated in the 401k, and that's a time of life when maybe you need some money. I think there's a higher propensity that they are cashing out the 401k. And my cautionary tale to that is, not only is there this penalty, but I try to teach young people that the hardest $10,000 to save is the first $10,000 that you're going to save.
Yep.
Because your money's not working for you at that point because you haven't accumulated enough yet for it to really get working. I mean, it's working, but it's not working the same.
Right, right.
So cashing it out is an easy option, and it feels good to take that money and put it in your hand, but there's such big consequences to that long term.
Yes.
And it's starting over and constantly having to start over is what really sets people backwards on their financial plan.
And that might be all, people think that's all that they can do, right? They think their only option is, well, I had this money, they saved it, I put it in here, I don't know what it is, what to do with it. They just take it, right? And then it goes into a savings account or who knows where.
Well, in addition to the early 10% withdrawal penalty, there's tax liability as well, especially if it's tax deferred money. So that's why it's often not attractive to take
you're
that
shaving
route.
30% right off the top.
Yeah, there's usually a 20% mandatory federal tax withholding in addition to that 10% penalty.
Yep.
So yeah, you're losing 30 cents on the dollar right off the top.
For sure. Well, I know we have a lot more to get to on today's show, but if our viewers are watching and they're going, yeah, that's me. I've got multiple old accounts. I've worked multiple jobs. I've just kind of had them out there. I'm not even sure what I have. Maybe there's an account they've forgotten about. What would you say to someone who's watching today?
Yeah, that's why today, I mean, for all of our callers today, we're offering a complimentary retirement checkpoint review. And what that is, it's a no cost, no obligation appointment, a consultation. It's going to be low pressure. It's going to be a casual conversation. But if something we're saying in this space kind of speaks to you, I think that's a good reason to call and try to get an appointment set with one of our advisors.
For sure. You'll remove the overwhelm from that situation, right? And help people bring it all together. So,
yes.
Pete, Kevin, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that number to call to schedule your complimentary retirement checkpoint review is there for you on the bottom of your screen. 866-630-1675 is the number to call. Or you're welcome to take out your smartphone and you can scan that QR code. That will take you to a landing page, ask you a few short, simple questions, and then a member of the team from Citizen Advisory Group will reach out to connect with you to schedule your complimentary retirement checkpoint review that way as well. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to dive more deeply into a lot of the problems that come with trying to maintain these old or forgotten accounts and provide solutions for how to move forward from here. Stay with us.
We know the market is going to get worse from here. This is the biggest monthly decline in 10 years. People's 401ks took a major hit.
Well, my investments are tanking. My retirement isn't going as planned. I can't believe I let my kid talk me into buying crypto. I mean, what is that anyway?
This was the fourth worst contraction in history.
So how are you two doing?
Your financial future doesn't have to be uncertain. I'm Kevin Bucher of Citizen Advisory Group. If you have amassed a nest egg, it's time for a financial advisor to help you reach your retirement goals. This is one of the greatest tax windows in history. Now is the time to take advantage of this tax discount while you can. We specialize in retirement planning, tax mitigation, legacy planning, and so much more. Plan your retirement right. Call now for your own complimentary portfolio review and written financial plan. As individuals, we strive for better. From a better house to a better career to a better life for our kids. But when it comes to your retirement, what does better mean to you? More income? A flexible lifestyle? Better solutions? A better retirement begins with a plan. To get your complimentary written financial plan, call the number you see here. You only retire once. This is your opportunity to plan for better.
Welcome back to Retire Well. I'm Kristen Oakley here with both Kevin and Pete from Citizen Advisory Group. If you're just joining us today, we are discussing the treasure of your lost or forgotten 401k or workplace retirement plan account. We already talked about the fact how common it is. The statistics are staggering. Again, the average American worker has 3 to 5 old accounts floating around out there with an average balance of over $56,000 in those accounts. That's a lot of money that needs to be accounted for, right? And we know it's so common. We've already talked about the fact that a lot of folks aren't aware of what their options are when they leave a place of employment, and a lot of times the easy thing to do is just leave it there. But the problem is there's lots of difficult problems with trying to maintain old accounts. So we want to go through those for you now just to bring awareness to why that's not the best solution.
Yeah, I guess I'll just go through a couple of things that kind of come to top of mind when we're thinking about what is a potential issue with the 401k. Is that number one, you're limited to the investment options within that plan, right? They might have, there's some plans I've seen as many as 30 some different options, but I have plenty of plans that have 5 or 6 different options. By law, we're actually required under safe harbor laws to only have, it's like 3 to 5 different options, and there's not a lot of plans that have that few, but you're very limited to what you can actually invest in, and
how your money can be managed.
How your money can be managed,
right,
and things along those lines. There's obviously fees that are associated with keeping those accounts. Those are just some of the things that kind of come to mind for me. Kevin, you probably have a handful of other items that.
Yeah, I've got a whole list here, but go ahead, Kevin.
So I think one of the, there's several big ones, and one of them that stands out to me is, when you're putting together an investment portfolio, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. So we call that diversification, right? So I think most people are familiar with that concept that we don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket. We want to build out a portfolio that's going to respond well in different economic cycles. And it's really hard to do that when you have a lost account out there or a forgotten account that's not really getting any attention.
Correct.
So a lot of times what we see is people might have multiple different accounts that they have that they think they have some diversification, but when you actually lift the hood and look at those accounts and what they have invested in those accounts, they actually are holding very similar funds. They're invested in the same things, and they don't have the diversification that they think they have, which diversification is a way to maybe smooth out the ride and protect some of the bottom side of the market risk. So again, that's really important, and it's hard to do that when you're not paying attention to this account or you're assuming that somebody else is managing just that account, which is not necessarily true either. So that's one that really stands out. I know another one on the list here is when you set that account up, you likely named beneficiaries. But you might have did that 15, 20 years ago and your life could be completely different. So it's a fairly common occurrence that we see people that have these old accounts that they haven't looked at for a while that might still have an ex-spouse listed as the beneficiary. You know, and maybe that's your intention, but I don't meet too many people that was their actual intention to leave money to the ex-spouse. So those are just things that we have to constantly be reviewing and keep up to date.
Yeah, there's new children added on, right? You had kids, you didn't add that person. I've seen that a couple of times where someone had an old account and they didn't add the third child because there was this old account floating out there. So actually this money went to the two of the children and the third was not on there. I've seen the old ex-spouse situation that we talked about. And make no mistake, by the way, when that beneficiary claim is being filed, the account, you're not going to say, well, that wasn't my mom's intention or that wasn't my dad's intention.
Well, it's not going to fly.
It's not going to fly, right? Whatever is on that designation form, ex-wife, 2 wives ago, however long ago, their name's on there, that's who's getting that money.
And I was going to add the fact that whoever is listed as the beneficiary will always trump whatever the will says. So it doesn't matter if your will's up to date, if your beneficiary designations are out of date, that money could inadvertently be left to someone that you weren't intending it to be left to. So I'm glad we brought that up. You know, another thing that comes to my mind is you have less access to personal advice. You know, your 401k plan provider isn't going to be able, you can't call them up and say, hey, here's my situation, how should I be investing my money, right? They can't do that within that context. The only way they're going to get that kind of personalized advice is by working with professionals such as yourselves. Also, when you reach RMD age, which is currently 73, that's that required minimum distribution age. Things can get really complicated and really messy really quickly if you have multiple accounts. Explain why that is.
Well, because the IRS has set a mandatory guideline around you having to take withdrawals from accounts. And if you have a 401k account and you've reached the age of 73 and you're not still actively working with that employer, well, you have a mandatory distribution from that account. And if you miss it, you're going to be penalized, right? So you might have this lost or forgotten account out there that's out on an island, and that's one of the things that kind of stands out to me as we're talking about this. When it comes to pulling together your financial plan, you don't really want anything out on an island. You don't want accounts on an island. You don't want to make Social Security decisions on an island. You don't want to make tax decisions. You want everything to be coordinated together to provide the outcomes that you're looking for in retirement. So again, talking about the RMDs, if you've got this account that's out there on the island and you forget to take the required minimum distribution, you're still going to be required to take it after the fact, and not only will you be subject to the taxes on it, but you'll be subject to penalties on that withdrawal.
That additional 25% penalty from the IRS is the rule currently states.
And that compounds, right? So they're going to look at that for years prior to say you missed it here, you missed it here, and that 25% is pretty hefty.
I think that alone is a solid case for the solution, right? Which I know when we come back, we're going to be talking about how do you handle multiple accounts and what you specifically are able to do for your clients to help them with this problem of having these old dormant accounts. But remind folks what they're going to receive when they call today to schedule that retirement checkpoint review. Yeah,
so the retirement checkpoint review is really meant to address the island issue that I just discussed. Because the retirement checkpoint review is going to pull together your income, your investments, your taxes, your insurance, and your legacy and estate plan to make sure that these things are done together, not in individual decisions that might negate each other. Or, sometimes when you make one decision over here, it has a negative consequence over here.
Yep.
So we want to make sure that when we're doing the retirement checkpoint review, we're bringing everything together in that conversation. And it really just is a really good assessment of where you're at today and some things that you can do to start getting on a better track for your future. So complimentary retirement checkpoint review, call today and get your time scheduled with one of our advisors.
Wonderful. Kevin, Pete, thank you so much. That number to call is there for you on the bottom of your screen, 866-630-1675. Or again, you're welcome to connect online, and you can do so by scanning that QR code that you see there in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to be discussing the solution to this lost and forgotten workplace retirement plan situation. Stay with us.
As a youth, I spent my summer months on the construction sites with my family. I think I learned early on the value of hard work. Ultimately, though, I was led into the financial services world where I joined my brother Jeff.
We were like many other financial advisors where, it was mainly transactional, but we felt there was just more. And I started to notice that the very, very wealthy families around the country had financial advisors that provided service to them that was really unparalleled. And it was always puzzling to us, well, why can't everyday hardworking people have that same opportunity?
I think we pride ourselves on the comprehensive services that we offer, which starts with the holistic financial planning. Our logo initially was a mountain-based theme, which was meant to kind of highlight the accumulation years where you're building and saving your resources for retirement, and then the backside of the mountain where you're working your way down in the distribution or income years.
I think many people think that the financial piece is just so prevalent and the most important component, but there's just more to it than that. It's about the experiences, it's about the relationships, it's about the life that our clients are living. As we looked in the future, we said, you know what, we need a logo that tells that story. It's our family coming together with your family. It's your financial pieces coming together to have a coordinated plan. It's our community coming together to keep that social connection. All of that coming together as one, and I think this logo beautifully illustrates we build all of this together to get the most out of your retirement so that you can have the retirement that you've always dreamt of.
Welcome back to Retire Well. I'm Kristen Oakley here with both Kevin and Pete from Citizen Advisory Group. And today we've been discussing the treasure of your lost or forgotten 401k or workplace retirement plan account. We know that a lot of folks have old accounts floating around out there. We've just spent in detail going through all the problems with trying to maintain these old accounts. So it's time to talk about the solution. And I so appreciate, I know you guys see this a lot. Folks come in to meet with you for the first time. They come in for that retirement checkpoint review, and it's apparent that they have multiple accounts that are floating around out there. You've even helped some people jog their memory and realize they had a forgotten account, right? Yeah. So what's the solution? What are you then able to do for folks to alleviate those problems we just discussed?
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, we're going to do the work. We're going to help do the work and make the calls, and sometimes that might take hours. I don't want to scare people with that number, but that's what it takes. I think the biggest reason people aren't doing this for themselves is not only because they don't know what to do or how to do it, but it's the amount of time that's taken, and no one's really going to hold our hands and kind of make sure we're doing it correctly. So we're offering literally to sit down and help you do the work on how do we find these accounts, how do we consolidate them, what's the most efficient thing, what's in our best interest to do. It's really the work, and that's the hardest part, is the work, people sitting down and taking the time to do it. And that's what we're going to offer to help with.
But it's a pretty good hourly rate, though, if you do the math, right? If the average account out there is $56,000 and it takes an hour and two to flush it out,
well, meaning it's a good hourly rate for the client, right?
That's $28,000 if it took you 2 hours per hour. I mean, I think that would be pretty acceptable to most of us.
For sure, right? Yes.
I think it's worth it.
That's a good way to put it.
And we have the tools to kind of understand how do you find these accounts, where are they at, If you were at this employer, where might that have switched to? We have a lot of experience in that, and that's going to go a long way in just trying to help.
For sure. Real quick, let's talk about the benefits of consolidation. Why is this so beneficial for folks to gather all their accounts together?
So I think I could sum that up in this hopefully brief explanation of why consolidating might make sense. And consolidating doesn't necessarily mean you only have one account, because that would be very rare, right? Most people still have multiple accounts. But really, it comes down to you need every one of your resources to do a job for you. And you want it to do the job that you need it to do in the most efficient way possible. So we need your Social Security, we need your tax strategy, we need your account balances, we need everything to do the job for you to deliver the outcomes that you're trying to get for your financial plan, right? So we need your money to work for you, and if it's sitting out there in a lost account or a forgotten account that no one's really paying attention to, and it's disjointed from your plan, that's what consolidation is about.
Yes.
We've got a plan, we know what we need your resources to do, and we put them in the right place to deliver the outcomes that you're looking for.
Yeah, and it's really everything. It's like if you're in a boat and you have 20 people rowing in that boat, all 20 of those people need to be rowing in the same direction.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
We can't have one person over here rowing this way, the other rowing that way. That's where we just spin and get nowhere.
Not get
right?
nowhere,
So it's really what you're saying, everyone rowing in the same direction. All of your resources go in the same spot.
That's a great analogy. One of the other things I wanted to ask you guys, I know I've heard from folks in my work as a financial educator, they're concerned to consolidate because they're afraid it's going to trigger a taxable event. So walk us through, that misconception and what folks need to understand.
Yeah, going back through some of those options I talked about earlier is that you have to understand a rollover to either a self-directed IRA or a Roth IRA or even your new employer plan, your new 401k or whatever that might be, is a tax-deferred transaction. Okay, so we're not paying the taxes on that. We are still continuing to defer those taxes when we roll it over to that new account.
It's a trustee-to-trustee transfer.
It's a trustee-to-trustee transfer. Okay, you have an unlimited amount of those that you can do in a year. So if you have 5 old accounts, we can do 5 rollovers, which are all tax-deferred, allows you to consolidate, still continue to do some tax planning and take advantage of what those laws. And the IRS has specifically designed that so that we can do that and not get killed in taxes.
So as long as the client doesn't take possession of the money and it is a trustee-to-trustee transfer, it's not a taxable event for them.
Yeah, so I wouldn't want to ignore the fact that it doesn't need to be a taxable transfer, but if it's not done properly, it can be a taxable transfer. So I would just caution people to make sure that you're working with a financial professional that's going to get these things done for you in the right way. Because the last thing you'd want to do in most situations is roll over a $56,000 account, the average balance, and do it in the wrong way and trigger $56,000 of taxable income all at once.
Yeah,
so.
And there's a difference with a big differentiator, a direct rollover and an indirect rollover, and that's a common mistake that people make too. Direct rollover, indirect rollover, very different things.
I think the bottom line is don't try this at home. Reach out to Citizen Advisory Group and you're going to handle the heavy lifting, right? So if this has resonated with you in your situation, you don't have to go it alone. Again, we invite you to schedule your complimentary retirement checkpoint review where you can discuss this and so much more. 866-630-1675 is the number to call. We'll see you next time here at Retire Well.